Hey YouTube, I'm Lauren Hawley. I am also known as Graphic Nation with a K all over the interwebs, and I'm a cityscape and street photographer based in downtown Atlanta. Alright, so I wanted to make this video today to talk about how I was able to adapt some of my older vintage film lenses to the Lumix S1 camera. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a handful of vintage film lenses in my collection, and I was really curious to see how well they would pair with the S1. Now, I will say this, if you rely heavily on autofocus, this may not be an option you want to explore. But I personally enjoy manual focus, and I really love the simplicity, small size, and unique visual characteristics that I get when I'm using older vintage glass. So let's dive right in and take a look at some of the lenses I have and the images I was able to make with them using the S1. Now, I had 3 native lenses from Lumix, which were all awesome. And while it covered a versatile range of focal lengths, I only had one prime lens option, the 50mm, which got me thinking, how can I get the most out of the S1 in this short time that I had to spend with it? So I basically went online to see if I could find L-mount adapters for my Leica M-Mount lenses. And I was also able to find an adapter for a Minolta MD lens that I happen to have. This just opened up my options for shooting with prime lenses at wider apertures, and it also helped me to lighten my load a little bit for my cityscape and street photography. Alright, let me just pop one of these guys on here so you can get a look at it and see how it looks on the S1. I'm going to go with my favorite here, this tiny little 15mm Voigtlander, a spherical wide-angle lens. Let's get that on there. Alright, I'm going to connect that just like so. I mean, look at that. That's incredible, okay? I mean, just look how beautiful and elegant that is. It's just so much fun. Okay, so those are some of the images that I've been able to make with the S1 and some of the vintage lenses that I already owned. Okay, so I was able to find these adapters pretty easily on like Amazon for some of the lenses that I already had, and they're super easy to use. You just sort of carefully mount the lens to the adapter and then mount the adapter to the camera body, and then you're good to go. Okay, so another thing I really wanted to highlight about my experience using my vintage lenses on the S1 is that they sort of became a bridge for me from my Micro Four Thirds cameras that I already owned to the S1 full frame system. Once I realized I could easily add my smallest Micro Four Thirds camera to my camera bag without adding too much more weight, and that both systems could share these same lenses with the right adapter, But due to the 2x crop factor on Micro Four Thirds, I could get completely different focal lengths from the same lenses on each camera. This was really a light bulb moment for me when I realized how well these two systems can complement each other with a little planning and creativity. So just something to consider if you hadn't already thought of it. All right, so the Leica M-Mount system. Now, if you are looking at getting some M-Mount lenses, before I started shooting with those lenses, I wasn't really very familiar with rangefinder cameras at all. So it was a bit of a jolt for me when I started using them on my Micro Four Thirds cameras, because the minimum focusing distance on the Leica M system is about 27 inches. And that may not sound like it's very far away, but if you've been shooting with, modern digital cameras, the minimum focusing distance is much closer, and you'll realize it pretty quickly once you start shooting with those M-mount lenses. It's not necessarily a bad thing, just something to be mindful of. So here's a real world example of exactly what that minimum focusing distance will look like. Now, this was shot on a Micro Four Thirds camera. I apologize for that. I no longer have the S1 and I couldn't make this example on the S1 full frame system. But on a Micro Four Thirds system with the Leica 50mm, the crop multiplier here is ×2. So this was shot on the Leica 50mm on Micro Four Thirds, so it's effective 100mm. Not necessarily what this would look like from the S1, it would be actually further away. But here on the left, this is the Leica at 27 inches away, and then on the right, I was able to shoot the same picture with the Minolta lens, which has a much closer focusing distance, and really get tight. So if you're someone who likes to move in close like me, I'm not saying to stay away from the M-mount lenses, but understand what you're getting, and probably also pick up something else like the Minolta or like an old Canon or an old Nikon 50 or something like that, just to have more options. All right, so if that last example has your interest piqued about the Minolta Rokkor-X, let's go ahead and uncover the good, the bad, and the sometimes ugly truth about this mighty little lens. First off, these are pretty popular among collectors of vintage lenses, and they are widely available in most used camera stores and of course online. It has an iconic, almost cult-like following due to its ability to deliver tremendous-looking bokeh at an extremely low cost. I picked mine up at a used camera store for about $40, but I mostly see these online for closer to $80 to $100, which is still pretty awesome, all things considered. Now, all that looks great and gorgeous, and what could possibly go wrong? Well, these lenses don't have any coatings, so they produce pretty wicked flaring and color banding and chromatic aberrations, so you'll want to be on the lookout for that. Now, on the flip side, you can also produce some pretty pleasing visual effects from lens flares if you can get it under control. It can be a little tricky to get sharp focus wide open. It's not really a surprise, but focus peaking helps a lot. And on the S1, the spectacular clarity and quality of the EVF and LCD display makes it a tad easier to control than what I've experienced on my Micro Four Thirds cameras. So for all of its quirks and faults, the Minolta Rokkor-X is actually one of my favorite prime lenses. And if you ask me, it's well worth the investment, both in terms of the cost and the time it will take you to learn how to control this little charmer. Overall, I found that having some smaller vintage primes as an option for the S1 was a perfect fit for my street and travel photography, especially since I was able to also share those same lenses between a second Micro Four Thirds body. Now, if you don't have any vintage or manual lenses already, and you just don't know where to start, I would decide how much you want to spend and what features or characteristics are most important to you. Do you want the widest available aperture, or is there a particular focal length that you just have to have? Start there and do your research. Now, if you're going to be buying a used lens, make sure that it's in good working condition and it's free of scratches, debris, and fungus, or anything on the glass that will affect your image quality. The Minolta Rokkor-X that I highlighted in this video is a pretty inexpensive option and a good place to start. But there are other similar manual focus lenses made by Canon, Nikon, and all sorts of other manufacturers. Now, I'm going to drop some links to some of the L-mount adapters I found, as well as some interesting lenses, just to give you a jumping off point for your search to find the best fit for your needs. So that's it for me today, YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the thumbs up if you liked this video, or even better yet, give me a follow. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.